You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Sean Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Ivan, go ahead and get us started.
Hey, I'm Ivan Zach, and I'm excited to introduce a friend of mine, Dori Fussmann. Dori is a co-founder of The Vets, which is the mobile veterinary vet service in multiple cities. After researching the vet med space and seeing the opportunity, it was built from the scratch remotely. Dori Fussmann has been a huge advocate for mental health in the past year, making this his life mission at the moment. Dori, thank you for the time and welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me.
All right, well, let's dive in. So you call this a Pawsitivity network. Tell us about this. What is the initiative about and what are you trying to achieve?
Right. So a bit of background on how it connects to my previous role with the vets. So I started maybe 5 years ago without any sort of history with VetMed and started building the company and got acquainted very quickly to the issues or challenges of mental well-being within the veterinary industry. You feel it as an employer, you feel it as a colleague, you feel it as somebody working with veterinarians, technicians, everybody basically in the space. And it was very, I would say, I don't know if disturbing is the word, but it was annoying to see that in an industry that had so much compassion and so much love and people's huge intent to do the things that they love, which is to take care of pets, there's so much mental challenges and people dealing with day-to-day call it challenges, issues, however you want to call it, stemming from the emotional toll of euthanasia, cyberbullying, the stress, the anxiety, everything that happens in this space. I was focused on the vets, the mobile pet care company for many years, and this was always a thing in the background, how we are addressing better the mental challenges. And early this year, I started the Pawsitivity Network, Pawsitivity PAW, with an intention to find solutions to the challenges in the industry. So I workshopped early this year with people from mental well-being, psychiatrists, psychologists, nurse practitioners, therapists of mental health, people also from the world of healthcare, people from the world of insurance, which I'll get to in a second. And basically, that's where I started the Pawsitivity Network. The concept is relatively straightforward. The owners of a veterinary clinic are dealing with mental health issues within their team constantly. They want to solve the problem. They're being hurt by the problem and the issues, whether it's burnouts or call-outs or there's a strong correlation between mental well-being and physical well-being. There's also sick days. And generally, business reputation is being damaged by an atmosphere and a vibe that's off within the clinic where the team is struggling. And the solution that a lot of business owners are trying to solve, if they're trying to address it, is with an EAP, usually, which is some sort of a solution that tries to bring to the table to the employees a set of tools, which can include legal advice and daycare connections and also mental well-being. But it usually doesn't achieve the results it's trying to achieve. The utilization rate is very low of the APs, and you're ending up with the same problem, which is same mental well-being. That's not where you want to be. Also, by the way, employees go to EAPs usually where they're at the end of the rope and not necessarily trying to maintain healthy mental state on an ongoing basis. What the Pawsitivity Network does, very simply to put it, is creating an engaging, inviting atmosphere, an inclusive culture of mental well-being by the way, addressing the stigma, bringing awareness, explaining to everybody in a way that this is fine. What you're going through is very natural, it's very normal, and you should address that. And by this engagement, we try to bring employees to connect with our therapist, and our therapists are therapists that understand the specific, unique challenges in vet med, meaning they go through a series of lectures. There's also shadowing they do to clinics to see the issues firsthand. And they also, if they have previous experience working with veterinarians, it's a huge positive. And while connecting with expert therapists that understand the specifics, the engagement and the effectiveness of the therapists are much, much higher. We work with insurance companies of the employers, which basically also reduces the considerations of cost. Basically, there are no costs associated. We're making advantage of the insurance that the employer already pays for. with the goal of seeing much higher engagement from the APs and creating, again, a culture of healthier teams, happier teams. By the way, with programs that are around individuals in the clinics, managers, which are individuals but have a few nuances to their specific struggles in the day-to-day, but also the well-being of the team as a whole. So addressing all these three elements within the clinic. Yeah.
Super cool, Dori. It's really interesting. And I want to kind of peel back the onion another layer. What were you doing before the vets? And I'll tell you why I want to peel it back. I want to understand why you got so passionate about this and just kind of what your trajectory has been up until kind of current day.
Right. My trajectory got nothing to do with anything that I'm usually doing, actually. So, I mean, I'll give you a very, very simplified version of my story in a way, but really it was hard to connect the dots. So I'm originally from Israel. I was in the military for 6 years. I left. I traveled to India for a year alone on the bike. I went to become a teacher. I taught statistics, accounting, finance, and law. I went to do my degree in accounting, business management, and law. I later on decided I do not want to be a lawyer or an accountant. I went to work in investment banking. I worked in Morgan Stanley and then in Citigroup. I did that for mergers and acquisitions in London for a period of time. And I wanted to go back to my homeland. I went back and I wanted to do something on my own. And I wasn't sure what to do. And I started to research where there's some sort of interesting opportunity. In a way, when you see, and you see it very well in the veterinary industry, when there's a gap between needs, either of clients or of talent or professionals, when there's a gap between what people expect, demand, what they want, versus what exists, then there's usually a very interesting opportunity to find a solution, to find some way to bring value. To me, it was very obvious in VetMed very quickly that there's a huge gap between clients' expectations for the care of their pets and what they're usually getting in most clinics, unfortunately. And home pet care was the way forward for me, in a way that caters to the three most important people in the room, which is the medical staff, the clients, and the patients. Everybody's calmer, more at peace, much more understanding, appreciative of everything that's happening. And in a way, veterinarians are also doing what they always wanted to do, which is being close to the pets. And you're removing a lot of the stress and the intense situations. That's how the vets sort of was born. And again, working within the vets, you see it firsthand how mental health is an issue and how it shouldn't be the case. Right? These people are so passionate about what they do, should be happier, should have a better life. I think by AVMA report, maybe earlier this year, 30 or something % of the reasons that people leave the profession is mental health. And there are solutions out there. There's ways to address it. Just doesn't happen on a day-to-day. And sorry, just the reason to leave earlier this year was okay, fine. We found some solution or something innovative in terms of veterinary care in general, which was home pet care, and seeing the mental health issues so strong while doing the vets. Okay, fine. Let's try to solve this one now, which is I think I'm getting a feedback from the people I talk to. There's a very strong product market fit. There's a strong need for it, and I'm very sort of aggressive about trying to remove this headache from so many professionals in the field.
No, that's awesome. So you're a problem solver, and it seems like you've been pivoting in your career path. But we talk about innovation, and we talk about innovation is usually invention that becomes a product, and just like you said, finding the product market fit. So what is the business model behind it? Because every project, even though vastly altruistic, has to have a backing so it can exist. Right. So how does this work as a business model, and how were you able address mental health in a business way?
Right. At the end of the day, employers, they have health insurance. They're paying for their health insurance. They're just not using the benefits that exist within the health insurance. So the therapies that should be done by employees can be covered by insurance. So that's basically where the money comes from, right? It's claim submission with insurance companies. And that's basically another reason why it's slightly not a brainer. The employer is already paying for their insurance, so might as well use it or encourage your employees to use it. So that's basically it, right? The insurance company covers for the cost. You have, of course, the cost for the therapist as well. And apart from that, that's the margin, the gap between the two.
And so are you like for lack of a better word, Dory, you're going to have to help me here, but are you kind of like a collective of therapists and you're getting a portion of the margin that's coming in from the insurance companies? Is that correct?
And yeah, generally correct. I mean, the Pawsitivity network, what the goal is, and the business model is interesting, but I think what's more interesting is what we're trying to create is a network of expert therapists.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it, right? Like there's a lot of people that have been to a therapist that have been to a bad one, and often that's all it takes. One
right.
bad one, and then it's not for me, or it's not for. So I totally understand the model. Makes sense. So big network of expert veterinary specific therapists that can help people that understand the problems makes tons of sense to me. Pretty unique and novel.
I want to say half a sentence on that.
Yeah, go.
There's a huge correlation between the matching of your therapist and the success of the therapy and your ability to continue and by the way, as a person that goes to therapists for like over a decade, once you nail it and you find a good therapist, it's great. And if there's no fit, it's just not going to work. And by the way, whether you're like any profession that you would do, if you talk to somebody to understand what you're going through, it's a completely different dialogue. And that's the point of the expert therapist. And that's the focus of the business. People that understand what you're specifically going through, because it's hard. A stranger does not understand. But the therapist that
unless they have some relevant experience, it makes tons of sense. My next question is: insurance is great if you don't use it. Typically, your premiums don't increase, or only slightly. But if you start to lean into your insurance policy and use it, and you have a bunch of people that have been encouraged to use it, the first thing that happens is your premiums increase exponentially. So let's talk about that. How do you deal with that? Because
right.
it's going to be a problem for you.
Right. So it kind of depends on the utilization. If we're talking about 80, 100% of utilization within the teams, correct. There will be a spike of the premiums. But first of all, that's not the case, and not what we're expecting. We're expecting 20, 30%, which is not a huge impact. Secondly, and that's basically the way to address it, is that insurance companies and healthcare companies understand and they accept, and it's tried and true, that there is a huge connection between mental well-being and physical well-being. At the end of the day, healthier teams actually reduces overall and long-term their spend. You have less, whatever it is, back pains or whatnot, or call-outs, because you're just 100%.
So how do you scale this thing? Are you going to put software behind it, or what does the future look like? This is interesting, but is there a deeper plan?
Yeah. First of all, the focus and the product is service. It's not AI. It's not technology. It's not an R&D move. It is services. It's care. And that's the focus. Where you can amplify anything that you do in this day and age using automations and AI and make things much more robust and quicker, of course, we will always try to inject the automations and AI. And I think, it's a different discussion, but in this crazy times we're living, very revolutionary in terms of the changes that are happening, specifically with AI. I think you can build sizable companies with a very small amount of employees, very small team. There's so much you can do with that. And there are places, by the way, to inject AI. I'll give you just a random example. You can basically improve the matching exercise between therapists, the expert therapists, and the patients by therapists writing their ethos about how they see therapy and what's important, and patients answering a survey and basically explaining to AI, the LLM, whoever it is, what are the criteria for good matching. And hopefully we'll say, okay, these are the top 3 that we propose as a matching exercise. There's a lot of ways to do that. At the end of the day, at the beginning, there's no need to invest too much in R&D. There are so many off-the-shelf solutions you can use. By the way, whether it's low code, no code, there's a lot of software you can use, a monthly subscription. No need to build things at this stage. And by the way, if this thing explodes and becomes very, very big and you want to have proprietary things, then you will build it. But that's not the focus. This is not a tech company. This is a service company that focuses on mental health.
That's I just actually forwarded a short video to Sean yesterday. I think Sean it was from Sam from AI, and he said a cool thing that that's how I think about the technology today. Is that he said that if you're writing the software products that are based on a particular version of ChatGPT, you're probably going to be outpaced by OpenAI because our next version is going to be so much better, and everything that you're writing, it's going to be in it, which is crazy times. I never thought in this angle at building software and being afraid that everything that is being produced outside of your team is going to outpace your ability to build a product, which is scary. But so what is the
But fascinating and exciting at the same time, right? Because you just tell the computer to go build it, which,
right?
God, that seems a lot easier, right, Ivan? Right, Dori?
The world is going to be, I really believe, is going to be very different 5 to 10 years from now. I think the biggest challenge would actually be how economies would deal with the fact that you're going to have millions of people that, in a way, their work will be redundant. I'm not saying it to be gloomy. I'm definitely not the first person who's saying that. But there's so many professions that basically, by the way, a lot of things from the world of tech, because that's the language of the LLMs. They'll be much easier. There's this Devon, I think it's called Devon, this POC they did like a few months ago. He basically took, I think, 15% of Upwork projects that are code based. It's an AI doing it in like 5 seconds.
Yep.
It's insane. 15% is a huge number for a pilot.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of very, I think, unique challenges, mostly for governments, how to deal with. I don't know if you guys have seen, remember Animatrix?
Oh, absolutely.
So
that's what that's what I was about to say. We still could be used as batteries for the other equipment.
right. Specific one. There's a second Renaissance. One of the episodes, very interesting about how the world is changing using AI. Of course, it's a very dystopian future and very dark, apocalyptic view of it. But in some parts, before it gets super dark, in some parts it's super interesting to see, because this is sort of where we're heading in a way. There will be huge junctions to decide for humanity. Just hope we make the right decisions.
Exactly. Well, with that, we blew through the time. And as we usually do, there's 2 questions that we ask at the end. One of them, is there a book, TED Talk, YouTube video, or anything that excited you recently that you would like to share with us, with our listeners?
Mm-hmm. Right. So, by the way, I just want to say, related to mental health a bit, I try not to do social media, and I encourage people to reduce the amount of social media significantly. So not a TikTok video. The Creative Art by Rick Rubin is a very unusual writer in person. It's just a very different read. It's very interesting to see how a person that is actually doesn't have any strong fundamentals in music is the mega producer. I think it's super interesting in the sense that sometimes left field approach to things wins, coming out of without paradigms, without specific thoughts about how things should be or how things have been done in the past. And I personally also connected that, because this is something that whenever I try to do something new, like the vets, Pawsitivity, coming and asking very, very fundamental, basic questions. It's something people know, what do you mean? That's obvious. That's not obvious to me. So explain it to me, please. And then sometimes you discover new things.
That's great. And then last question, if people are interested to find more information about your project and your new company, where do they go?
Right. So basically, either the easiest way will be LinkedIn, Dori Fussmann, just get in touch, and they will go to the right place. If you're okay with the spelling of the very long domain of thepawsitivitynetwork.com, you can leave details there, and I'll get in touch. Against the Pawsitivity, PAW, pun intended. So that would be the best way to find it.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.